Hey everybody, we're live. So thanks for joining Watching Code Office Hours session number 46. If you're new, this is just time for students at watchingcode.com to ask questions about the content. It could be anything related to the course material. This is the place to ask. So if you want to get the latest updates about these sessions in case there are changes and stuff like that, you'll want to join the Facebook group. That's where all the events are posted and where any changes are posted. And the link to call in. So if you want to ask a question, you should call in like Thomas Anthony and Tehranjit. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but if you want to ask a question, you should call in. That's the best way to ask. And you'll find if you go on the Facebook group, you can see the event in the events tab, and there's that live stream link. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, if you look at the description, you'll get a link to this document. And I guess I'll be nice and paste in the call-in link here as well. So it'll be in the docs or in this document. So if you're on YouTube, then click the document link and you'll get to this document and you can call and ask a question. Okay, so student of the week. Last week we had some technical difficulties because my power went out and I couldn't broadcast like usual. But so last week we recorded a podcast for Front End Happy Hour, and Luis Vargas, who's one of the students, set everything up and was also a guest with me on the podcast too. So I wanted to thank Luis for that. The episode is out right now. So let me pull up the link. You go to frontendhappyhour.com. I don't know why I'll follow up and ask why the title's so weird, but you can listen to the episode. There's me and there's Luis, and it's about learning JavaScript. So pretty relevant, and it's nothing mind-blowing. It's just a chat about learning. So if you have some free time, you should check that out. Public service announcement this week is related to something that happened today. Actually, Tehranjit, I don't know if that's how you say your name, but he asked a question, or Tehranjit asked a question, and it made me look at some code that I'd seen, I don't know, 200 times by this point. And the way I looked at it again, I learned something new this time. So I think the point was to look at things really deep, in real depth, and don't be afraid to look at things over and over again. Because I feel like that's where I learn all the interesting things that I've learned about JavaScript. They either don't show up unless you look at something over and over again and see how every little tiny piece works, or if you read about it somewhere else, it doesn't sink in because you don't have like a real use case for it. So when you do have your own code that you're familiar with, review it all the time. So I guess it's like review old code, and for depth, like look for the little details and try to see if you can explain how every little thing works. So that's the advice for this week. New stuff is Accounting.js 13. So let me pull that up. Show you that. So it's for Watching Code members, for people that have finished practical JavaScript. There's more advanced material that you can subscribe to if you want to keep going. And the latest video is about numbers in JavaScript. So it sounds really simple, but numbers are actually quite complicated. And in this video, we go in depth in how numbers are represented by the computer. So you see, I don't use this term, but you see like how binary starts to come into play. The computer can only really deal with zeros and ones. So everything is based on 2. And so you see how everything in JavaScript, at least at a number, is sums of powers of 2. So we look at how that system works, and we look at how that affects everyday things that you, in unexpected ways, like rounding numbers, something that you typically think is really straightforward is not so straightforward because of the ways that numbers are represented in binary. And we also, so we see a bunch of different approaches to rounding, and we finally find one that seems to work pretty well. So that's what we talk about in Accounting.js 13. So yeah, that's it. So that's all I have. From here, I'll go and move into questions in order of people that called in. Let me check the Facebook group really quickly. All right, so yeah, so I will periodically check questions on the YouTube live stream chat or Facebook, but you should call in. So now if you want to call in and ask a question is a time. So if you're watching the YouTube live stream, look at the description. There's a docs link and there's a link to call in that document. Okay, so first person is Thomas.
Hi, Gordon.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. Yeah, well, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I don't have any questions this week. I liked the most recent lesson. It was good, but like I think I said in the Slack channel, I'm gonna have to go through it one more time and just and play around with it, see if I can kind of wrap my head around it a little bit more, because a lot of it isn't intuitive, I guess, right? Like I can see you doing it, and I trust that like it makes sense, but it's not like. Yeah, it doesn't, like, I don't watch it and think, oh, that I follow this completely. In fact, I've seen something about floating point numbers before on some other course that I was doing, but I just skipped over it because I thought like, well, this doesn't ever matter at all.
Yeah.
Right. But I thought like if Gordon sat down and like, I know it takes a long time to record a video. If you've done that, there must be some, you know what I mean? Like it must not be a total waste of time, because there's so many other things that are a waste of time that you said, just don't even bother with it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go back and check it out. And I really had no idea it was converting everything in binary. So, or sort of roots, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's binary, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really, I guess, I don't know what the terms are, but basically just powers of two,
right?
Sums of powers of two. And yeah, so the reason I hate going into things that don't really affect you, but it doesn't take very long to find out, damn, what is going on, right?
Right.
Or the one in the video, that, or what's another one? Unfortunately, I know all these things. Not that one. It was 2 fixed, right? 2 fixed 2. So when you round this to 2 decimal points, you'd expect it to go to 0.62. It goes to 0.61. So if you don't understand why this is happening, and you're doing, even basic calculations can come up with these really not obvious results. You just, like, where do you go from there? Right? So you have to have some kind of concept of what's happening, so then you can actually do something to resolve the problem, right? And so what we did in that video is just one case where, like, oh man, we're seeing weird stuff, so we're gonna think of a different way to do it, right? And the heuristic, or I guess the way we get around it, is actually really simple. It's just to, I guess, Thomas, if you really think about it, it's to do it exactly the way a human would do it, right? So if you took 0.615 and you rounded it, and like JavaScript can't round it, but if you told someone, I don't know when you learn rounding, but let's say 4th grade. If you told a 4th grader to do it, and you told them that you could, multiply this by 1, like you only can round integers, right? So you can turn this into an integer by multiplying it by a factor and then dividing it by a factor. But you could also, what they might do is they might just move the decimal point over to the right, and that's equivalent to multiplying it by 100. And then from here, they can math.round. And then take 62. 62's decimal point is really right there, and then move it back to the left. 62, and then they move the decimal point back to the left. Right, so that's really the algorithm. To do it with like this in JavaScript, if you're manipulating the decimal point, is quite tedious, because you have to do a bunch of string manipulation and move the decimal point around. So the way we do it is with scientific notation, which is the same idea. But yeah, so I guess if people really want to see scientific notations like that, or it would be, the original one was 0.615 E2. See that that's basically moving the decimal point over too. Without, so you don't get the pain of weird inaccurate results because you multiplied this inaccurate number by 100 and you exacerbated the inaccuracy by 100x, right? Which happens with 1.005 times 100. You did 1.005 E2, it would actually move the decimal point over 2 times. So, does it make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It'll make more sense, I'm sure, once I play around with it. It doesn't really make sense to me why. Okay, let me just see if I can put this properly. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to me why it's able to round, let's say 61.5 or 615, but if it's 0.615, why that's harder for it to represent?
Yeah,
right?
it's because what JavaScript is doing when you do math with math.rounds. The, like, say that you put in 0.5. What JavaScript is doing is 1 to the right of the decimal. It's looking at that value and it's saying, is it 5 or more?
Right.
And so that's a very reliable, it's easy.
Yeah.
Because the two fixed takes additional inputs, like the number of decimals. So you'd hope that it would just move the decimal point over and then maybe use internally math.round, right? That would be a reasonable algorithm, but I don't know why. But for some reason it doesn't. It looks at the actual approximation of the value, which is powers of 2. And so it's actually doing 2 fixed on like 0.614999.
Right. Yeah.
So that, like, so you had a question that was like, why don't they just fix 2 fixed? I don't know. Yeah, I
almost wonder if maybe people have it's broken in a reliable way, right? So people kind of expect it to behave a certain way. So if they fix it, then it'll hurt legacy projects. That's my only guess.
That's possible. Yeah, I mean, like you see some of these are like, I've clicked on these before. I didn't see an example where people were like, yeah, that I want it to behave like that.
Right.
Everyone is like, how do I get around it? But yeah, it is plausible that maybe some programs are relying on the brokenness, and then if you fix it, it'll screw up existing programs.
Right.
Yeah, that's possible. So I really don't know. If anyone does know why 2 fixed is so weird, send me an email. Not that it's a good use of time, but if you happen to find out for free, then let me know. Don't spend time on it. I think, Thomas, for the students, for my students, what I want is just for you to be like, look at this and be like, okay, I feel good about that.
Right.
Yeah. Which I think before this video you would not. You'd feel like, what the hell is going on, right? I just want you to be like, okay, whatever, that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the outcome I want. So that's why I taught it, even though it feels like, it doesn't seem like a classic thing I would teach.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so the next person was Anthony.
Hey, Gordon. I have a question for you after the broadcast is over, but before that, I was sort of wondering about prototypical inheritance, and if you could have, say, like a prototype, like a higher prototype that like sub classes would inherit from, if you understand what I mean. Like,
No,
say,
I don't understand what you mean.
say,
Did
all
you
right,
watch the videos on prototypes?
yeah, that's what I just got through with. I'm
Okay.
not on the most current. So, say you have like a dog, right? And then all dogs would have bark, but then sub would be like a corgi, and maybe the corgi has a special function, and then underneath that, if you understand what I'm saying, like each one would have their own version of a prototype. Like, is that a possibility? Like, say, can I? Basically, what I'm asking is, can I inherit from two prototypes for one object? Like, can they inherit from a dog, and can they inherit from something else?
Didn't I have an example like that? I'm
I
pretty sure I
don't
did.
remember seeing an example like that. That's why I'm sort of curious about it.
You can have as many prototype chain relationships as you want. So if you have 100, you have like so you can have like a at the lowest bottom like foundational prototype, it could be a living thing, and then it could be um, a mammal, and then like a canine, and then like a dog, and then a um, like domesticated dog, and then you can have on top of that like a wolfish dog, and then like a husky,
I might have to
and then
rewatch the
like
video because
you can have you can have as many as you want.
I don't know, I was fooling around with them today specifically. I think it's the structure of it that,
Mhm.
like, when you're making a class constructor, the difference between that and prototypes.
Well,
Maybe
so
I just didn't get
I
it.
think the thing that it's easier to do that with it's more straightforward to do it with object.creates if you want a super long prototype chain. But you don't want a super long prototype chain. That's just like confusing. Like I think just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, right? So for example, common prototype chains are maybe one or two layers deep. So you have an object at the base layer, and then you have an array, and then you have array instances. So that's a good level of complexity that's not like overly complicated.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's something I'll have to look into more. But yeah, again, the other question I was going to ask you, I'll save till later. So that's it for me.
What's the other one?
The other one has to do with React, and I was hoping maybe you have some experience with it. So,
No, never used it.
oh, okay.
Focus. Wait, Anthony, why are you doing React stuff?
I don't know. You got me feeling confident with JavaScript, and I like the idea of like being able to assemble the DOM in that way
Mhm.
using JSX. Because I've been playing around with it the past 2 days, and I like it. So it's not to job chase or anything like that. It's just out of curiosity.
To build stuff. You just start with the docs. Anthony, you should start with the docs.
Yeah, that's I actually have that open right now. That's what I've been looking at all day.
I don't have anything insightful to tell you because I don't really know anything about React, but I've browsed the docs very briefly and they seem pretty decent. Like there's a section on the design and thought processes behind the APIs, which is I really like that kind of stuff, which a lot of frameworks don't do a great job of explaining. So
yeah. Well, I feel like they did good, but my question is more geared towards the routing because that's something I've never even like experienced before.
yes, you have. So in TDMVC jQuery, what's director.js?
Do we use the URL to do that? Because
Yes. You should go back and review it.
Yeah.
Go back and review it.
Okay, I got it.
That was the PSA today. Okay. Yes, you've done it absolutely. So Anthony, at the simplest level, a router is just when you go to a specific URL, you run some code. That's it.
What was
every router
the
is the same.
episode that I got go back to? I forget the series.
Part of your review will be to figure out where it was. Okay.
All right. Well, I appreciate the help. So
Yeah, all the
Next.
stuff is the same. You'll find after a while.
okay.
It all builds on each other. Okay. The next person was Am I saying? Can you tell me how to say your name? Is it Taranjeet? Hello. You there, Taranjeet? No, I can't hear you. Okay, try to get your microphone, play around in the settings to make sure that you're using the right microphone. So right now, if you look at my screen, there should be the settings right here. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see it. And you can select the microphone. So make sure you're using the right microphone. And then just yell, and then I'll hear you and I'll come back to you. You tried all the options. Restart, use a different browser, and then call back in. Okay, so use a different browser. Okay. All right, so the next person was Chase. Chase, you there? Chase.
Yo, I'm here.
Hey, how's it going? You just joined, right? You just joined the.
I just joined today, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, I've gone through practical JavaScript twice and felt pretty confident. Decided to move forward today. Don't really have any questions. I didn't know how these work, so this is my first time in one of these weekly meetings. So, but yeah, don't have any questions. Just I think 50 minutes into the first video, so I'm just started.
That's pretty far already.
Yeah.
What do you think so far? It's different than practical JavaScript.
It is. Looking through the code, how you're walking through it with the break and all that stuff to go through each section. I mean, obviously didn't know about that. It's pretty cool. Reading that code though is kind of like
you didn't know about what?
Like the break. I knew about the debuggers. I guess it's kind of the same thing, right?
The break. Oh, break on
the console.
Like what do you mean by break?
I thought God, I don't know how far into the video it was. I thought I could have sworn you were using something about break.
Maybe it was break. Maybe it was break on like DOM changes or something.
I think so.
Cool.
I'm gonna go back through it again tomorrow because unfortunately I just had to cut it short and yeah, so I didn't get a chance to really pay attention too much. So.
Oh, breakpoints.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nate. Nathaniel. You don't know him as Nate yet. Nathaniel chimed in. Okay. Wait, didn't I talk about breakpoints in practical JavaScript? I guess I didn't say that, and I didn't use that term.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know about the debugger and the practical JavaScript. So. Got
it. How's your? What do you think of the 50 minutes that you've been in? Like, is it surprising? Are you like? I think a lot of people look at it and they're upset that it's not like practical JavaScript. Like, do you have a reaction to it?
To me right now, I just kind of see it as like an intro into it. I guess I'm not sure what to expect. I'm obviously reading all the comments. I did see that, hey man, this premium stuff isn't going to be anything like practical JavaScript. So I did anticipate that going into it. As far as like how far I'm into it right now, just kind of using it as an intro, I guess. I'm not sure what to expect going forward. So.
Got it. Yeah, I ask because I feel like I need to explain that transition better. But since you're at this point, the idea is oh, Terence, we hear you.
Yeah.
Yo.
Can you-
Yes.
Sweet.
I'm gonna come back to you right after I talk to Chase. 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, no problem.
So Chase, yeah, so the idea is that practical JavaScript, that form of step-by-step kind of being like treating you like a baby,
Mhm.
is good when you're first starting, because you can't just look at someone's code, right? It's like when you're teaching a kid how to read, you're not gonna you don't just start from like give them a book and start reading. You like have to teach them, you know, I think with cats and dogs and you start from a really basic level, and then once you know a little bit, then you can read really simple like picture books and stuff.
Mm.
And I think with programming it's similar, but you have to move to that. You have to jump to reading at some point. I think a
Right.
lot of teaching companies kind of don't get this right, where they like to think that people build stuff all day, but anyone that's ever worked as a developer knows that you're mostly reading code all day.
Mhm. And a little bit about my background. Like I've been doing Treehouse. I'm sure you're familiar with Treehouse for like the past 3 years.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've started from the
Damn, you
ground
must
up.
have a lot of points.
Yeah, like 14,000 or something like that. But no, I mean, I started from basic HTML.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, JavaScript is kind of where I'm at right now, and and you're right. It just they don't all the resources I've gone through. I mean, I did code school a little bit too, and then Free Code Camp. I know that's a like widely renowned resource, but the thing about that is like they just kind of throw you into it, like not understanding anything. So I stumbled through Reddit and everything and came upon someone who suggested watching code. And man, like it just, everything I learned from Treehouse was kind of just in a fog. And as soon as I went through that first one, it all just clicked really well. So feel like I'm pretty confident with the very basics of JavaScript right now. So yeah.
Nice. Cool. Well, you should well, thanks for coming. You should join these sessions each week.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's a good way to, because I'll ask you and bug you and make you feel guilty for not making progress. So it's good. That's pretty helpful. So yeah. And if you have any questions about anything, I know Taranjit's question is related to something you're about to go into very soon. So
Mm.
pay attention to this.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Anything else before I move on?
Nope.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh, and the other thing, since you're new,
Uh-huh.
is that we usually I usually stop the broadcast at 7 or
Okay.
1 hour after 1 hour, and we like hang out afterwards, and you can ask unrelated questions if you want.
Okay, cool. Sweet.
Okay. Taranjit, are you there?
Yep, hello.
Okay, first, how do you say your name?
So my name is Taranjit.
Taranjit. Okay.
Yeah, you can just call me TJ if you want as well.
Taranjit. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So-
I feel so uncomfortable when I say a name and I know I'm saying it wrong over and over again.
Don't worry, not many people get my name right the first time.
Wait, where are you calling from?
I'm from Sydney.
Sydney. Ooh, I was wondering what the accent was.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what time is it there?
1:30 p.m. right now.
Oh, okay,
So
good.
that's good timing. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So your question. So
Okay.
so people watching don't have context from your messages in Slack. So if you can just start from the beginning.
Okay. Okay, no, good. So I think for me, a lot of it is just trying to understand what this is, what the word this is. So when we were looking at to do MVC week 2, let me just see how, I don't have screen share here. So basically, when I was looking at to do MVC, there was
I pulled it up.
okay. Yeah, if you could put it up, that would make life easy. Yep.
Okay.
So
I'm
what
gonna
would-
look at the code. All right. Okay. There it is. There's the code.
There's the code. Okay. So when we go down to about line 56.
Oh, whoa! The code's been rewritten. Is it?
No,
Wait.
it's our
Oh no, I'm an idiot. I'm so dumb. Wow. Okay. I was like, wow, this is so not so different. Okay.
It's about
Okay.
line 56.
Okay,
Okay, yep.
All right.
So the bind events, and then at the end of the add event listener function, we see
What
that
line?
for 56, yep, so one you've highlighted.
Okay.
So right at the end, we see that we have this dot create dot bind
Yes.
this.
Mhm.
Yep. So the part that I'm confused is with the dot bind this. So my understanding was, so from what you've told in the videos, is that due to the way jQuery operates, so say we didn't have the dot bind, this dot create, this would actually relate to the new to do object.
No.
Nope.
You mean this right here? The one I
Yeah.
highlighted?
Yep. This
No.
would relate. No. Okay. So
No.
my understanding is wrong from there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's progress. We will start from there. And let me open this up too as a reference.
Yep.
So one, thanks for asking the question, because I don't know if you heard, but it made me realize a really subtle thing about bind that I like didn't explicitly know, or I never thought of it like in that specific of a way. So it was pretty helpful to get this question. So it's a good question. So I'll just have this reference. If you're watching, if you go to my GitHub, github.com/Gordon CHU, you'll find this cheat sheet -js, but it has like all the scenarios for understanding this, and they're only 5, so it's not like an insane number. And whenever you are confused about this, it's good to have this open. I often have it open because I sometimes get confused. So to start, so from practical JavaScript, well, so this, if you look at all these cases, what changes the value of this is how the function is called. So that's the thing you want to keep in mind. So when you look at this I've highlighted right here, or this I've highlighted right here, the value of what I've highlighted depends on how bind events is called. And so you have to look at how bind events is called. Bind events is called in line 46, right here, right? And then here, bind events is called on another this, so then it's kind of confusing. So then you have to look at how init is called. And init is called, I don't remember where it's called. Init is called a 195. So if you really want to go deep, you have to kind of start from here. And this is actually what kicks off all the code. Like nothing really runs until 195, I think. I mean, so this variable is created, but nothing really runs until like the events, the bind events stuff doesn't run until this is called. Okay.
Yep.
So right away at 195, there is case 2. When a function is called as a method, this points to the object that's on the left side of the dot. I call this the left of the dot rule. And so what the question here is, what is this inside of init?
So
It's
I'll just
whatever. It'll be
Yeah.
app, exactly, because app is left of the dot. So that's straightforward. So then let's go into init. So we know from the left of the dot rule that this, um, this is all app because the left of the dot rule.
Okay. Yep.
And then in practical JavaScript, like I said, when it's called as a method, this will point to the object that contains the method, right?
Yep.
So app is the object that contains init. So, you know, two different ways to say the same thing. But I came to the left of the dot rule because it seems more straightforward. So
Yep.
inside of init, this is pointing the app. So now when we run this.bind events, this is app. So this line, you might as well say app.bind events. It would be the same thing. But the reason you don't say that is because if you rename app, then you have to rename like every single time you ever use this.
Yep.
So it's kind of inconvenient. So people end up using this instead of to show that this is like notes. So what I have here is equivalence. These two are equivalents. So the left of the dot rule is applied again here because you want to know what is this inside of bind events? App.
App. Yeah.
Right. So then now let's go and bind events. So inside of bind events, basically all the purple stuff is this, right? All the purple is this, and everything, this, app, everywhere. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So that's the basis. So does that clear up your first? Because that was the first point of confusion, right? You weren't sure about. Okay.
Yep. So the this dot toggle or the this actually refers to this dot create bind. It actually refers to app. This in there.
So to be really, really specific, what I've highlighted here and what I've highlighted here all are app. So here and here.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Basically, everything that's purple in bind events is app.
Okay.
Okay. So then you have this next level where you have this part. And I think what's helpful here is it's like peeling back an onion. You have to go layer by layer. So this is the next layer we have to deal with. This layer right here, you kind of have to understand bind. You don't have to know it in super detail right at this point. But what bind does is it returns a new function where this inside of the function is whatever you set it to. So if we go back to the cheat sheet, it's case 5.
Yep.
When you explicitly set the value of this manually using bind, then this inside of your function is whatever you set it to. So the example I have here is very straightforward. I pass in a new object for this keyword. And so when you call explicitly log this, it's going to print out this object. And that's what you see in the comment right here. So is this part clear? Case 5?
Yep. That part's clear. Yep.
So that's what's happening right here. And it might be helpful to rewrite this. Again, like kind of before up here where I wrote this part, it can be helpful to just as you're going through the code, rewrite stuff, run the code and see if it still works. And that's a good way to check your understanding. So really this is app.create. Find this app.
That's all. Yep.
Right? So these two lines, same. Sorry,
Okay.
I started saying that stuff because I've been hanging out with my friends have been having babies and they talk in like baby talk. Same.
So would the advantage of like the top line be that if you change the name of app, you don't have to come back and
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So the downside of writing this line, the green one, rather than so the downside of 57 versus 56 is exactly what you said. If you change the name of app up here, everything
Yep.
breaks. Everything's destroyed. Nothing works. Right?
Yep.
If you use this keyword, then it doesn't matter what the name of the variable is. And I think this is not best practice. I say that sarcastically, but if it helps you, if it's clear for you, and you're just it's pretty early on in your learning,
Yep.
it's fine. If you like to write your code like this, whatever, who cares? That's fine. I don't see a problem with that. And you can control F and find all the instances and change them. That can be error prone, but if it helps you get used to how everything works, that's fine. It works
Okay.
the same.
Yep.
The same. Okay, so at this point, in this green part here, so now that we've established that these two lines are the same, let's look at a specific part of it. So, let's navigate through this. Where is it? 56.
56.
Okay. So let me isolate one part. So I can talk about one part.
Yep.
All right. What does this do, Taranjit?
See, like for me, I guess my main issue was if I'm just looking at that, it's like so redundant because you already have app.create and then you're just binding app to this again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right. But so I guess maybe it's helpful to think about what happens if you don't have. I guess since this is really the only relevant part, let's paste that. So what if you don't have bind app? Right? You just had this part. So I guess I'll be complete and I'll be a little bit redundant. Let's say that you instead of bind, add this. Okay.
Yep.
So then when there's a key up event on the new to do element, element with ID new to do, jQuery will run app create. Okay.
Yep.
So if you write your code like this, and this is again like you should. It's maybe uncomfortable for you to do this right now when you're learning, like pretty early on, but you should see what happens when you do this on your own. But I'll tell you for now, because this is how this stuff will sink in. So if you do what I have here, let's pretend that you had 58 instead of 57 or 59. The case is you might think the case is case 3.
Yep, that's what I thought first. Yep.
And so what you would do is inside of app create, you should console log this or run the debugger and see what this is. You'll quickly find that it's not. It's not case 3.
Yep. Yep.
So then it has to be case 5. And if you look in the jQuery source code, I wouldn't expect you to look at the jQuery source code, but the jQuery source code uses call. If that makes you feel better. But the jQuery is like, it is case 5. It's call. You don't even need to know what's call. For all you care, it's bind, apply, or call, whatever. It doesn't matter. But because you ran the code and it's not case 3, it's case 5. Okay. And jQuery explicitly sets the value of this to what I've highlighted, the element.
Okay. Yep.
Right. So that's what happens if you do this. Now that's a problem because if you look at app create, where's app create? Where's that? I don't know where it's at. Okay. This is a problem because if this is pointing to the element, this code's not going to work
Yep.
because this to-dos is only on app. It's not on the element, right?
Yep.
And so this is bad. Bad.
Yep.
I don't know I had this. Oh, I was trying to isolate. I don't know what I was doing here. Okay, but anyway, so let me delete that because I don't know why I have it.
Yeah.
So do you see why, I guess first, do you see why this is bad?
Yep, I see that.
So the problem we want to solve now is we want this inside of app creates to be app.
Yep.
That's what bind lets you do. Bind lets you, number 5, explicitly set the value of this to whatever you want. We want this to be app. So we
Yep.
explicitly set the app.
Okay. So without .bind app, it originally is app. That this is actually originally is app. It's just that jQuery sets that to new to do, so it changes.
Yeah, so it changes the value of this inside app.create. So the key is inside of app.create.
Inside of app.
So
Yep.
inside of app.create is right here, right? So it changes this at 147.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Right. So it does not change this at
Okay.
56.
Okay. So the issue wouldn't be here; it will be down at
Exactly. It's so bind affects this keyword inside of the function bind's being called on. So inside of this create, or you could think of it inside of app.create.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
So the keyword this depends on how the function is called and also which function you're in. Right.
Yeah.
So what I've highlighted here is inside bind events. This is inside bind events, but when you call bind this, it changes this inside of create.
Create. Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
The really subtle thing I point out in the Slack, which I didn't realize until today, is that this is probably over the heads of most people. But like Nate Thomas, this should probably be pretty straightforward for you. So you have actually a conflict. You have case 5 times 2. You've double case 5x or 5 times 2. So you have in 2 spots, you have it right here, create.bind.
Yep.
And jQuery is doing it as well.
Yep.
So which one wins? The one that does it first wins.
Yep.
So
Okay.
this one wins because you're calling bind on this function before you pass it in. So this code's gonna run before on gets it.
Yep.
Right. So this code will return a new function that's already bound to app, and so on will just get that function, and then it can't rebind it.
Yep.
And so in the discussion with Luca, that's what we're talking about.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Sweet. Okay.
Yeah. This is as complicated as this keyword gets.
Okay, that's
I
good to
think
know.
Unfortunate that I didn't think it would be this complicated, because I was like, oh, this is like a pretty basic to-do list app. But
Yep.
I don't know. I think it ends up being a good thing because there's nothing else can surprise you really after this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, that cleared up a lot of things.
Is there anything that's unclear about that? Anything that just feels like uncomfortable, or I want it to be like clear.
I'm pretty sure it's clear. I think I just have to. I just need to listen a few more times, but it sounded clear
Mhm.
in my head.
Here's the other thing. The other tip is the only reason I know this stuff is because I've played around with this a lot,
Yep.
like more than anyone. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but if you want to understand code, you have to play around with it a lot because there's no blog posts out there that's gonna like play around with your specific piece of code every single way, every single scenario, right? Like if you really want to see what happens in every single case, you should try it. If you're wondering about like what is this happening, then delete it or like redo it.
Okay.
And you'll see. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Sweet. Thanks, Gordon.
Yep. You're welcome. Good question. Good question.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Well, okay, cool. How have things been going in general? Which video are you on? I lose track of. I don't remember where this is.
Yeah, this is the second video in your paid course. So I've just finished that one. Yeah, it's been pretty good so far. Definitely, it felt like a bit of a jump when I started your paid course compared to your free course. It's taken me a little bit longer to figure out things, I feel, but I think it's getting better. I think it's mostly down to practice, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's much harder. You're right. It is much harder, but I think this is similar to what I said to Chase, but there has to be you have to transition students from like a baby course like Practical JavaScript to real stuff. Like getting a code base and just looking at it is real stuff. And maybe we could have built this app first, but it just kind of delays what you have to do. Because the reason reading is so helpful is because number one, it's probably most of what your work is, unfortunately. Number two is that it's a great way to learn. So whenever you're like, how do you do that? You can just go look at the code. And it might be code, it's probably code someone else wrote, and you just read it and you kind of make your own tutorial out of it.
Yep.
So that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to feel like, oh man, like I need Gordon or whoever to make a tutorial on every single thing I want to know. I want you to be like, I can just go read whatever code I want and learn whatever I want. That's a better way to go.
Yeah, I found that. I think it was this is a good middle ground, because we started off with like Practical JavaScript, and we wrote the code ourselves, and we pretty much by the end we have a good understanding of how everything works. And then now we're reading code which it's the same, but it's just like it's written in a bit of a different format.
Yeah.
So it's not too much of a crazy jump to make. So yeah, so not too bad. Yeah.
Right, but I think and I kind of emphasize this. It's the hardest part I think of going through this is it feels bad and really uncomfortable, because you can only process like one line of code at a time, and it might even take you 10 tries to process one line of code, like in this case.
Yep.
And then you finally understand one line of code, and then 99% of the code you still don't understand, and that feels really bad. But I think that is just part of that. It's always going to be like that. So I think what I was trying to say is that, try just things like figuring out which function to look at first, like getting really small wins, and then being really comfortable with ignoring everything else. That's like the most important thing, because then you can focus on one thing at a time. I think beginners, when they look at a code, an app like this, they see everything at once, and then they just get overwhelmed. When the right way to do it is to tackle it one tiny piece at a time, and gradually a full picture emerges. Reading is always like that. It's not like reading prose. It's like it's like a puzzle kind of.
Yeah. So when I actually started the first course, I just I straight went into the code just to have a read of it, and I actually could not make heads or tail of anything. Actually, after a while, I just gave up, and then I started your first video, and then you pretty much said we're going to start looking at this, and then so I'm like, okay. So I went back and I decided I'll just start from there first, and that actually helped. So I slowly built up that way. Otherwise, it was just at the start I was just trying to figure it all out, and it just was as you said, a bit too overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, keep it up, and I think you're. I can tell you're really focused. Like, you know, um, and that now this should be hopefully like a lot more clear. But yeah, don't like if something's confusing, don't like ignore it and gloss over it.
Yep.
Try to understand it, and bit piece by piece, you'll get to the point where like Nate and Thomas. I mean, like Nate, you haven't talked yet, but like, how do you feel about this app now? It's been a while since you've looked at it.
No, yeah, I feel good about it. Like, I understand every single piece of it, right? So, it's,
But how did you
yeah,
feel about it when you went through it for the first time?
it was a struggle to try to figure out. Like, I remember going through and trying to figure out what each part did and how they kind of work. Like, kind of how you told us to take an hour or so and like read through it. And I remember thinking like, okay, this is kind of a challenge or whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, now it's really clear to me every single part of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Taranjit, the
3 months
other.
ago.
Wait, sorry. What was that, Nate?
Oh, that was in I guess that was in October, like mid-October, and now, like 3 or 4 months later, it's crystal clear. Right?
Hmm.
But it didn't take that long for that app to be clear. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if you keep working, like you see results.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, and Taranjit, just another thing that was I think hard for I think it was a struggle for me, and a lot of other students have this problem too, is that when you see something you don't know, there's a desire to like spend a lot of time looking at it. So, for example, handlebars. Like, honestly, I don't know crap about handlebars, like almost nothing, but but I know the handlebars in this app really well. And what are other things? I barely know Jake. I don't use jQuery regularly. Like, when I read this app, it was the first time I really used jQuery. So I'm not like a jQuery expert, but I know the jQuery in here really well. The other thing is like there's this router that it's another third-party library called Director.js, and I don't really. The first time I looked at Director.js was with this app, and I don't really know Director.js, but I know how it works in this app really well. And the trend here is like you don't need to read this app. You don't need to be a expert on jQuery, on the handlebars, on the router. You just need to know what it's doing in this app, and that's very uncomfortable until you get used to it.
Yep.
But yeah, but there's this urge to like want to be an expert on everything, but you just can't. You just have to focus on what is in front of you, and just look at, like, for the router to just be like, I just need to know what the router constructor does, and maybe what what the callbacks do here, and that's about it. And maybe I should know what the init method does, because init is on the router, right? So, and then, but if you look at the Director.js docs, there's like a ton of stuff, right? And you just have to be like, whatever, I just want to know how this works. And that I find to be hard myself, and very hard for students as well. I get a lot of questions about like, do I have to like read through the entire, be an expert on all these things? And the answer is no, you don't. And I'm proof of that. I'm very ignorant about all these things, and that's okay. It's okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Anything else, Taranjit?
No, all good. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Great questions. And keep up the good work. Okay, Nate.
Hey, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any like crazy questions tonight. I've been pretty busy, but I watched that latest video, the Accounting JS 13. I think that was pretty cool. And I've been working on the stuff that you told me about. It's pretty fun. It's nice and somewhat challenging, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that book that you gave me is pretty huge too, so it's kind of cool to see like see how much that guy actually sat down and wrote out for people.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it in a few minutes after I end the broadcast. I want to hear more about it.
The only thing I was going to say though is that visualization for the floating point numbers that you use in the video. I went to the URL and it's like different because I was going to show it to my dad.
It's different.
Like,
what?
I'll just paste it in. Just give me 1 second.
I looked at that video on. I mean, I finished filming it on Friday when I posted it. So, let me open it up and I can show people too. It's really cool. It's the first time I saw anything like that before. No one knows what I'm talking about. So give me a second.
The link is there.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, I think we will end the broadcast after this. I'll share this. It works. Is this what you saw, Nate?
Yeah, is it a little bit different than how it was when?
Oh, there's this toggle details thing.
Okay.
So I had a really simplified view because I didn't want to show you like all the craziness. Like I didn't want to show you the bits.
Yeah.
These are like literally like bits, like the ones and zeros.
You just hide.
Yeah. So I thought that was too much detail. So I think I like shrunk the screen and then just showed you this.
Oh.
Yeah. Because then I'd have to explain like, binary stuff and I didn't feel like it.
Show it to
And
me.
this is very distracting too. But
Yes.
anyways, so people probably don't know what they're looking at. So I forget the name of this guy, but I don't. Is it Bartas? I can't remember. But this guy wrote this app that I use to explain numbers, and it's pretty awesome. And you can see how you flip bits, and it can change the values of numbers. And like for example, this is a really small. It's 1/2 with a very, very small number, 2 to the negative 53rd. And this is so you can kind of see stuff like that. But the point is that every number, every integer is the sum of powers of 2, right? So 2 is 2 to the first, and 5 is 2 to the second plus 2 to the 0th, and so on. And all numbers within reason can be represented like this until you literally run out of memory. So if you have a super big number, you may not have enough memory to actually represent that number, but you usually won't have that problem. That's unlikely. I don't like to talk about edge cases. And so, but then the weird thing is fractions are not as great. So only fractions that are perfectly sums of powers of 2 can be represented accurately in JavaScript and actually a lot of programming languages. Like if you have 0.6, you have it can't get exactly 0.6, so it adds a bunch of tiny numbers to try to get close. So I think the example is 0.615 was one where it's like it's the actual number when you add up all these tiny fractions. The actual number is like 0.6149999 or something. So yeah, I guess Nate, the short answer is toggle details. And Nate, if you hit the README right here, you can look at the code for this app. So the code is there. I don't know if you want to read it, but it's there for you to read. So the code that makes this thing possible is on GitHub. I haven't read it, so I don't know what it's like. It may be crazy, but there's also on the README from, what's his name? Bartas? What is this guy's name? I feel like I should. Bartek. So Bartek also has a video that accompanies everything you never wanted to know about JavaScript numbers, where he goes through his app, so you can see in the background he goes through the app. So if you want to know more, you can take a look at that. But yeah, this is really related to Counting JS 13. So unless you're at that point, this won't make much sense. Okay, cool. So you can show your dad, Nate.
Cool. Yeah. I'll just pull it down or hide it or something.
Okay, well, I think all the questions have been answered. Let me check the YouTube real quick. Looks like it. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Greg. Thanks for calling in. If you want to ask questions, I'm going to hang out. I usually hang out an extra 30 minutes just to chat about free chat. And hey, Jack. So if you want to join the chat, now's the time to call into the Hangout. It's the link to call in is in the Google Doc. All right, so that's it. So I will see you next week. Stay focused, and yeah, good luck with everything. I'll see you next week. Thanks for coming.